Hello, my name is Lee Mallon, and this is a deep dive into how I created a family-focused equivalent of TripAdvisor with completely generated AI, text, and images for $53 and less than 2 days. Last week, I released a blog that basically talked about and showed what I've called Kid Ventures AI, which is a website which has 237 cities from around the world, and for each city, there are 10 activities that highlight family-friendly things to do in each city. Each activity then has a 1,000-word blog post about it, as well as some customer reviews. The response was great, but people asked, like, how did you actually create this? What were the prompts you used to generate the images and to also generate the text? So I thought I'd just make a video and kind of go into the details of how that all went about. So first of all, this is the website. This is Kid Ventures AI. As you can see, it's not the most design leading website, but it's not that different to many content websites you have in travel, where you have a list of cities from around the world with images, descriptions, and on this page the images and the descriptions are completely AI generated. And then if we go into, for example, Abu Dhabi, which is where I live, we then have 10 things to do in the city, again completely generated images and descriptions. But then if we go into, say, the Louvre Abu Dhabi, my favorite building in the world, we then have a 1,000-word blog post about that activity for you to read. We also look into like other places, like in Andorra. If we go into the National Museum there, not only do we have the image, the description, we also have 4 positive sentiment reviews from 4 different people, but each person that's left a review also has a unique profile picture to them. And all this stuff was generated purely with AI prompts. So let's kind of break down how this happened and how it all works. So the first thing I did was I went into ChatGPT and I basically said, I need a list of all the cities in the world. And this is what it looked like. What are all the capital cities in the world? And then it listed them out. The problem is as you'll know if you've used it, ChatGPT has a limit. It's only give me 72. I can then say, give me the rest starting from Haiti, and I could extend and extend, but it was a bit time consuming. And also it wasn't returning it in the right format. So I basically went to Wikipedia and got the list of the capital cities. Once I had the list of capital cities, I then basically had to say, what is a description for each city? So we can see on here, each of these cities have a description, and basically the prompt was as simple as going into here and just saying, 1-line sentence, if I can spell, to describe Abu Dhabi, UAE, as a tourist. Obviously for my creation of this, because I was doing so many, I used the API to do this interaction, but basically it then generates a sentence. So I put this into a loop and created this for 237 different cities from around the world. Now, after I created the descriptions, the next thing was then to create the activities. So in here, we then go into, say, Abu Dhabi, and we can now see the list of these 10 activities. The prompt for that was a little bit more specific. Obviously, Abu Dhabi, like most cities, has an unlimited amount of activities to do, but we wanted specific ones that were family friendly. So for that, the answer was, let's zoom out a bit. There we go. So here, the prompt was, sure, here are 10 fun and interesting things for children to do in Abu Dhabi. Now, what's interesting here is this isn't a prompt asking it to give me 10. This is a prompt to basically extract out things that it thinks are interesting. And then basically what you have here is it then gives you this list of Ferrari World, water park, beach, zoo, etc. All things that I can vouch for are family friendly and are really awesome. The problem with this is if you're accessing this information from an API, it's coming through in bullet points. You've got this pretext here. Like, that's a bit difficult to work with in a code environment. But luckily, ChatGPT gives you the ability to control the formatting response of this. So I can actually say the same prompt, the same the same reference. Sure, here are 10 fun and interesting things for children to do in UAE, but I want it back in a JSON format, which is a software development format for importing stuff quite easily, with these properties, and they are activity name, description, and location. It then spat back out this. Now, in this screen, this is a bit difficult to read, but here it is here. So here we have the activity name, the description, and the location, which is which island it is in Abu Dhabi. But as you can see, first of all, the format is completely consistent for every single one. And the key bit also was noticing, you see how their activity name is Ferrari World, but on here, the activity name was a Visit Ferrari World, because it thought it was basically trying to tell you something. By turning it back and putting it into a more developer-focused response, it stripped away the pleasantry, which means it's much easier for you to then use that to fill in, the visual page of this. Now, we've got our description for our cities. We've got our list of our 10 activities. We need a photo for Abu Dhabi. Now, for that, I use DALL-E. So this is DALL-E. As you can see, I've already pre-loaded it. Basically, I just put in the city and the country. And it would bring back 4 images. I only asked for 1, and then just pick the first one it generated. There are other tools like Midjourney that generate images, but from my experience, I found that DALL-E is a great use case for stuff that exists. Midjourney is a great one for creating futuristic, kind of really creative projects. But DALL-E, I found, has been trained by a lot of physical things that exist in the world. So it created some quite realistic options, though not perfect by any means. So now we've got our images for our cities. We've got our 10 activities. The same applies. So the only difference here would be instead of having Abu Dhabi, I would basically just grab, like, say, for example, the Louvre, and I would just put in Louvre Abu Dhabi and then generate. And again, this was all through the API that it was doing this. Unfortunately, the image generation is quite slow, which meant the content creation side of things did take like 5 or 6 hours because we created over 4,000 images. But you can see here the images. In fact, these images are coming out nicer than the one that actually it did the other day. These pictures look pretty close to the actual thing, which is amazing. Now, if we go back to the website, we can see we've now got our picture, we've got our description, we've got our name. Let's now go into the page. Now here we now have a 1,000 word article about this particular attraction. So how did that come about? Again, if we jump back into here, we now have, I pre-did the prompts just so the interest of time. So now this was the prompt. Create a 1,000 word review of the Louvre Abu Dhabi in Abu Dhabi. So this was basically activity name. Let me zoom in a bit more here. The prompt here was basically create a 1,000 word review for activity name, in city, in country, based on the description, which was the description that was generated in the previous step, which is here. And then this is basically what it spits out. It spits out a description of that. Now you could fine tune this more and more. You could put it in a certain style. You could put it from a visitor's perspective. You could say focused on things you can do there. Focus on in this case, the architecture. But the content it did create was actually quite impressive. Now again, if we look at the Andorra one, it didn't do it for all of these because it was quite time consuming. But if we look at the Andorra one, it also then had customer reviews. Now, for the customer reviews, the first time I ran it, I basically said, give me reviews in different sentiments. So something positive, something negative, something neutral. But the negative ones were quite harsh, so I took them out. So for that, we just used the prompt that goes like this. So again, the prompt was create up to 4 customer reviews, each with no more than 200 words of positive sentiment, and all I would have changed in this whole prompt was positive, neutral, or negative. With a positive sentiment from the perspective of a child of the Louvre. So again, activity, city, country. Again, based on the description, so passing through that original description. You could also say based on the whole article and pass the article through. And return it back as a JSON list like we did the first time in this format, again with an author name, the text, and interestingly a posted on. Now this didn't fully transfer, it's worked quite well on this example here, but this didn't work that well last time. Because what I wanted to do is I basically set this up on the 26th of March. So I wanted to post the review dates to be after the 26th of March, like roughly like a month. So I basically say where the posted date was a random time in 2023 after the month of March. And you can see here, like it basically has done it. Here's the author's name, Sarah. Here's the review. Leave was amazing. Love seeing the art. You know, that's probably what I would have wrote because it's, you know, it's an amazing building. But here's the posted on stamp as well, which again is a future time. Now they are all April, which kind of gives you an indication of where it's not quite following through there. And then equally for profile picture, I basically just put create a profile photo for, and then just put Sarah, and then we just create an image off the back. But because we were creating 400 reviews, there's 2,370 reviews, of which off the back of them, it was then using four reviews for each, which would have been like 10,000, which would then been 10,000 profile pictures. So actually we only did 400 reviews. But you can see here what it's kind of generated off the back of that. Again, and this is both the benefit and also the negative, shall we say, of these tools, which is the ones I generated, I feel were much better quality than what we're seeing here. But it's, you know, obviously a peak and trough kind of situation. Then off the back of that, we then took all the content, it ran for 5 hours and basically stored it within a file structure, like in a database. And then it's just fed. I basically went through, did a profanity and also keyword kind of search just to make sure there was nothing in there that, there was nothing offensive that was found. OpenAI, ChatGPT had really basically not generated anything of profanity, but there was a few things in there that I took out which probably weren't, you know, not suitable necessarily for a younger audience. So that's basically it. That's how I created this whole site. Obviously, that data then was wrapped in this HTML template, and then, you know, in here I have a list of the cities. I can then jump to different ones. To be honest, I found myself kind of just looking through the different capital cities. I know these images aren't real, but actually it kind of makes me think, oh, actually, I think I might want to go. There's one here. Like, this looks like a beautiful place. Like, I think I would love to go and see and visit. And I think maybe generative AI, maybe AI generated images and text can lead to more of a explorative attitude to travel, rather than just focusing on what is, you know, been taken by tourists. Again, if you've got any questions, if you've got any feedback, please do let me know. Thank you so much.